I know. Shit. Because that guy really. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Okay, good morning, everyone. Well, it's afternoon. So it's Tuesday. We're going to go through the live Tai Chi Paradigm for Parkinson's, and we're going to go through the things that we normally go through, and hopefully everybody's wide awake, and it's kind of hot outside of you in this area, but we'll go through it. I'm in a nice air-conditioned space, and we're going to go through these movements. We start off with our feet like this, feet shoulder width, and what do? We bring our hands up here. So this is kind of getting us limbered up, turning to the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, like this to the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay, hands up. This is a stretch, but just do the best you can. If you're a little bit tighter than, than some of your friends or colleagues, don't worry about it. Just do the best you can. Do not force the movement, all right? Just try to relax, bend as far as you can, and just let it go. Now, if you just let your body release, that takes some of the tension out, but don't hold it too long. Turn to the side. And the most important thing is do not force the movement, because you just want to increase some range of motion and kind of get the blood circulating. You really need to get that circulation going. And then we're here. So this could be challenging for some people that have never made a circle like this. I see it sometimes at the centers that I was teaching at before we got shut down. Everyone's a little bit different, but the thing is, just do your best. Circular movements. Okay? And, if you, at home, when you practice, if you have like a mirror that gives you the full body, once in a while go to the mirror and look at the exercise while you're doing it and see how it appears to you. Then you try to smooth it out or round out the movement. So this is making a circle. So I call it waist rotation, because we're making a circular movement and we're rotating. So, kind of defines or explains what you're actually doing. So you will have some shift to the side. Your hips actually will relax. So a waist rotation is not just isolated in this area and you're just trying to do this. You actually have to move your hips. And once you get your hips turning, try to relax your neck so that your head stays fairly still. You don't want to be doing this. So avoid that the best you can. All right. Then the hand on your waist kind of gives you a place to put your hand so that you can even feel your body shifting from side to side. Because when you have your hands here, it's actually harder to control that circle because you have these hanging to the side. So this actually makes it a little bit easier. Okay. Now let's cross the forearms. Okay. Go down, hold on to the kneecaps a little bit, lightly, just touching your knees. It's really a reference point, but you can feel your kneecap, and you kind of create a circle, and then we're going to switch hands and go the other direction. So I don't want to do too many of these. We go through it and just kind of give you an idea. Now, you can practice this on your own, and you can do more if you choose to, but I don't want to overwork someone that's not used to doing this. But your kneecap is a floating bone cap that kind of moves around, and don't hold it too tight. Just let it go, and you'll be able to kind of control that. All right. So the patella is actually something that kind of is there to protect and it wraps that front joint so that it allows you, has a little action there. So anyways, you're there. We're on the waist again, and we're going to do the neck. We want to relax the neck a little bit so that we can turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, and stop. Now we're here, going to go back and forth, down, up and down, up and down. Okay, so movement actually allows you not to be tense. So when you move your head like this, or you're turning side to side without holding it for an extended period of time, it actually works the muscles here so that there's a contraction, a relaxation. So that give and take actually helps stimulate circulation, right? So this, we go to the side, you get a little bit of a stretch and release, stretch and release. So stretch and release is really, one side is pulling and releasing. So there is a balance in motion there. So you don't want to have to sustain the position too long. Okay, so that gives you an idea of why we do that. So some people have a little trouble moving their neck because it's a resistance, or maybe you have, some pain in this part of your neck and you're afraid to do that. So if you do have that, then by all means, refrain from that kind of action because it could be painful, but that's generally a pinched nerve or a slipped disc in this area. That's a totally different story, but that has to be reset, or at least, that pinched nerve getting relieved. Anyways, from here, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So now if you want to do this, you can make the circles. Now, sometimes people get dizzy doing this, so I only do a couple of 3 of these, and then we reverse the direction. 2, 3. And, turning the head, turning the waist, knee rotations, that's all rotary motion that we're, creating by, it's moving in a direction as a pattern, just like we do this with our hand, we do this with our elbow. All of these circular movements are created because we have this capacity, but we have to kind of learn how to do that. And, all of that is really to help stimulate circulation, bring the fluids in our body around so we can bring nutrients to the cells, oxygen to the muscle. All of that happens through movement. So tension is something that we should try to avoid. I know there's the bradykinesis, kinesia, I think that's how you pronounce it, and some rigidity here. Maybe, any rigidity is really tied to tension. So we try to get rid of that tension by moving. And moving is something that actually is very beneficial for motor skill as well as building some spatial awareness of what we're doing. Okay, so when we're here, we're standing, we're ready to spread our feet. We put the hands here. We go 1, 2, 3. Now, this, and this is really a motor skill, right? It's learning to. So this is something that a lot of people don't do. Why would you do that normally? It's, unless you're doing some type of dance, or you're like Charlie Chaplin used to turn and do this, move to the side, pivoting their feet like this. But the thing is, unless you're doing something like that, it's really something you wouldn't do normally. But when we do this, it's really using our hips by opening and closing, or opening and closing, depending on, how we can work that. So that's something you can practice. Doing it here, standing, you might be better off just working one leg at a time, keeping your balance on this side, and do that. And then when you get some control, you can actually do one at a time to get your feet spread. And that's how we would do it in some kind of a controlled fashion, because we're actually not stepping, we're pivoting. And that's something I think is very valuable, and I'll go over that after we finish these few exercises when we're opening the stance. And if you have trouble doing that, you can practice that. Some people would think this is an easier way of doing it, and it is easier, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to learn how to pivot. So learning how to pivot is your goal, so you should try to get familiar with that, because that's the mechanism we're going to use to change directions and head in a direction or turn a corner or change by moving our feet as a steering mechanism to take us in a direction. So once we're here, let's turn again the waist, loosen up the body, get the body to free up here. Just let your body release. Don't force the movement, and drive the movement by spinning. So your spine is actually like a vertical axle, and it's just allowing you to turn. Everything that we talk about is sort of just an analogy, using it to kind of understand where you're going with that, so you can just swing the arm, relax the limbs so that they just kind of swing and wrap your body. So if you're doing this in a fairly relaxed state, you could actually feel some tingling and some surging into your fingertips. And why? Because you're moving and gravity's acting on your body, and the fluids in your body are actually shifting. So when you, just through centrifugal force, or just the fact that you're creating movement, it's swinging. And what happens when you swing? If you put a ball inside a capsule and you swing it around, it reaches the end. It kind of travels out. It's kind of a force of extension. So when you swing, the fluids in your body actually go out to the tips of your finger. And they stop there, because if it didn't, you'd have to burst open and the fluids would come out. But it just goes there and it's reabsorbed, and it just continues to work like that. So we're doing that to stimulate circulation. Okay, now when we're here, we can practice this. Okay, so this is the ball pivot to get to a square stance. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So geometry of position, triangle, you look at your feet, it looks like a triangle. 1, 2, you look at your feet, it looks like a square. So it's a triangle or a square. Okay, so this actually is this is how we get into a shoulder width stance. That's the stance that we do all these exercises in, if we're turning or leaning, so forth, or we're stretching. So that's the stance. When we go like this, those are setups. If I go like this, I can bring this foot over after I shift my weight. If I bring this foot over, my weight's here, this goes here, and I'm here. Now this is the Tai Chi stance. You can see that, any time you're watching Tai Chi movement, you can see that they're in this stance, and then they go into this stance. So those are the two stances. There's forward and back. And let's come back to center. Let's switch the other side. Go forward and back, forward and back. So you either have a right or a left side forward. It's kind of determined by which side. So my right foot, if you're doing mirror image, it's your left foot. If my left foot goes out, then it's your right foot. So that's, the empty stance. Now if I go like this, so you see between here, the foot's there, there's a pivot point. Now there's a 90 degree there. Well, if I go like this and turn, I'm facing this way, and here's the leaning position, the archer stance, and here's the empty stance. So I have on my side, this is the left side, and then I go back to center, and I kick this heel out, and this becomes the right side, and I go forward and back. Okay? Then I go forward and back. Okay, now that's what we're doing. Now I pivot again, and I go like this. Now I'm back to square. Okay, so this is just spreading your feet and then pivoting on the heel. You go forward and back. Now pivot, pivot, and then we go this way, and we do the same thing. Now put the hands on the hips so you get some control of the movement, one at a time. One at a time. Okay, so that's something that will help you change directions. So how does that work? When we're in a position, say we're walking forward and we end up in a corner here or in a position that we want to turn. Okay, so some people have trouble getting over there because maybe the leg's not cooperating, and then you end up kind of doing this to get over the here. Okay, so that's a pretty big turn. It's 90 degrees. So if you're in this position, if you turn like this, that's 45 degrees. If you turn like this, that's a full 90 degrees. So if you have the flexibility, the more you turn, the more you'll be able to get to that corner without breaking it into, bits and pieces to get there. So that's something, if you have a little trouble turning a corner, then just pivot. Now, if you have weight on this foot, it's impossible to pivot. You have to take the weight and put it on the opposite side of the direction you're turning, and your hip will actually open up a little bit because you don't have any weight on there. It's sort of like if your foot is here and you go like that. That happens if you're driving. You kind of have to pivot your foot so the foot kind of falls in that direction. So when you go like this and then swing your body around, not throw your body around, just allow your shoulders to go in that direction. You're already headed there. You're in your 90-degree position, and you just made a right-hand turn because this is my right side. But you want to go this way, I have to shift this way a little bit and turn like this, and then turn like this. But, you're not always making maybe a 90-degree turn. You might just turn to the corner. So this is a simple, even a little bit easier by going this way. But if you're like in a movie theater, which you can't be in right now because they have social distancing and a lot of the theaters are closed, if you had to go down an aisle or even, wherever it is, in a restaurant, wherever you are, where there's like tables and chairs, and you want to go into an aisle and you have a little trouble, that's one way of turning to get into that position. And then if I wanted to turn again, I would turn this way, and then you would end up in that direction. So really what I'm trying to get across is use a pivot rather than stepping, because when you step, that's a little bit more challenging, and it's actually dangerous if you're not in control. So you don't want to put yourself in harm's way by maneuvering the wrong way. So you want to pivot off a point, pivot off a point. So use your heel as a pivot point, and then you'll be able to take yourself in that direction. And then when you step, remember when you step forward, the heel goes down first, and then going backwards, your toe goes down. So these are the sort of natural things that occur when you're walking or moving. Locomotion is all part of that. So between the heel and the toe position, between the heel and the toe position on the back foot is what regulates the step. So by just sitting here and rocking forward and back, you can have a toe-heel relationship. But in Tai Chi, we don't rock like this. We actually sit and extend and sit and then fold the front leg. So you develop that relationship. And this is better for practicing because what ends up happening is you soften your knees. Okay, so if you just roll, you can also do it with kind of a stiff leg. And we want to avoid that stiff-legged position because the stiff knee position makes you not as stable, and you can be in a position of instability. So to control that, when you're a little bit more relaxed and able to flex the knees, you would have more control. So a lot of times when we do these movements, we're actually slightly bent. And the more extreme the bend is, the more strenuous it is. So all you do is have to let it go a little bit, just enough to fold the knees. And you get used to releasing and folding the knees, then your stability will be enhanced, because now when I relax in this position, my center of gravity is lower, but I'm much more nimble on my legs. Okay, so the whole premise of Tai Chi is really building the balance and sort of the security from this concept that the lower half of the body needs some work to build that understanding. So that's the pivoting, the step, the pivoting, the step, the forward, the backward transition for shifting of weight, and then shift the heel down, the shift of weight. This is a back and forth, shift, and then you step, shift, and then you step. Okay. So even an exaggerated way of stepping could be even when I take a step like this, and then I pause. I take a step, and I pause. I take a step, shift, and pause. So here is a step, here is the shift, here is the pause, sink, step, shift, and pause. So all of those things happen as a course of stepping and moving through your movements. So that's very, very important in controlling your body through space and regulating what has to happen. So, with all that said, the only way that can be done is through some practice. But the first line of learning is to understand why you would do that. Because you have to heighten your awareness and sensitivity and the mindfulness of what you're doing. Because the more your body and brain connect, and then you develop that understanding, then your training really will be reflected on that. And because you know that this is what you're trying to do, the tendency is to try to work toward that until it becomes more of your sort of conscious level of doing these movements. So we're learning how to make that maneuver. It could take 4 to 6 weeks for a simple thing like that to be programmed into the body so that it becomes like a habit, like second nature. I can work it like this, and then it goes into long-term memory, and every time you have to turn, you know that you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this. So once you have that mechanism, you could just take a step, pause, take a step, turn, take 2 steps, take 3 steps, take 1 step, turn, sit here, get it to here, 1, 2, 3. If I want to turn this way, I go 1, 2, turn this way. So you just practice turning, moving, turning, turning. You make a complete turn all the way around. That's like a military turn. When you move to the right and we turn. When you move to the left, you go like that. It's the same process. We probably learned it when we were younger. Even in gym, we used to have to make these turns, stand in a position, pivot, turn. The about face movement would be 1, 2, 3. You move forward. 1, 2, 3, close, turn. But we don't have to do that. You turn. That's just one of the techniques of making a about face, turning. So that's really, it's nothing new. It's just taking it and then recalling that this is something that I've done before. So when we're over here and we're turning like this and we're turning like this, is something that might jog a memory or a technique that you already new at one time. So you take that, extract that motion, put it into what the movement that we're doing is very close and very similar, and we're actually shifting a little bit of a weight. Now, the closer our feet together, the ability to shift is much easier. When the legs are spread out wide, now it's very hard to get a pivot out of that. And the reason for that is because the further your feet are spread beyond the shoulder width, the harder it is to get the weight over the specific foot. So when we get the shoulder width, it's not the best position to walk in because you start to waddle. So it's an extreme shift. So what do we have to do to overcome that is we move to the center. Then we take the step and take the step. So in Tai Chi, we shift the weight, we move to here, then we take the step. We move forward, we pivot the foot, we move the foot, then we take the step. So it's broken down into phases of a transition so that we can control where the body is going, where the weight is going, and how that feels. Because without feeling what it feels like, without experiencing it, you really don't know what I'm talking about. You're imagining that that's what you should be doing. But once you feel it, which is part of your sensory system and your proprioception, then you begin to awaken, the idea of how to do that. So then your brain is activated. Then you have neurons that kind of want to build that idea into your system if it's not already there, and then you just work off of that. And that's how you would learn and improve. But the key thing is to be mindful and conscious of what you need to do to get that to happen. Because as I understand, a lot of people with Parkinson start to lose some of the muscle memory, or maybe even the consciousness, the subconscious movement, because it gets either pushed back, or maybe the dopamine is not allowing things to happen the way it should. So you have to bring it down to this cognitive skill level where you really begin to try to understand and think it through, and that's what the consciousness of the movement is. Think it through, and then hopefully you pick up on it. So every time you want to make a turn, you're conscious of that. You say, okay, I'm turning to the left. I'm turning to the right. And you can talk your way through it until you pick up that strategy, and then it happens fast and as a signal. I'm going this way, I'm going this way, and then that will help break that interruption, or maybe when you freeze or you go into a position that doesn't allow your body to respond the way you wish it could. So it's just getting your body to understand, what it should do from here. You have to use your understanding and consciousness of what we're doing. So that's that. And then we're going to work the forward and back step. So we have this movement that we really kind of swing the body. So we can stand with our feet like this. And this is not shoulder width. This is actually closer. So we swing. Why closer? Remember, I just mentioned that the closer your feet are together, the easier it is to maneuver the foot. Why? Because our center is closer to our space between the feet, which is our center. Because when you shift your weight from side to side, as soon as the weight goes over the heel of that supporting foot, that's a point of balance. So if our feet are like this, it's a drastic shift to get it over to that foot. It's a drastic shift to get it over this foot. So that mechanism isn't easy for people that are a little bit rigid in the lower half of the body. So you have to learn to relax, and that happens when we do this, when we do this, when we do this. It all works, our extremities from the bottom up, and works the upper body. But when our feet are pretty close together, then the shift is very minute. You don't even see it, but you can feel it because we pass through center, and then we move. So this is your step, and this is your step. Now, when we walk, we should actually swing our arms. Now, some people might freeze in the upper body, and then you end up walking like this, or you might lean forward and walk like this. But the thing is, any one of those postures, especially this, you're really catching up with yourself because your body's falling forward. That's not a safe thing to do, because if you can't catch up, you're going to end up falling down. So avoid this position. Tuck the hip in, stay vertical, and let your sight line be controlled by your eyeball. Look down, look where you have to go, because your sight line is going to take you in a direction. If I'm looking here and then I look here, if I track my movement, my feet and my hands can actually work together with my eyes. So we're really going in a direction. So when we're doing this swing, this leg swing like this, it's really 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to do it as a step. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's backwards. I just did that so I could get back in the starting position so I could do the other side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's how we practice this exercise. By 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So we're used to sustaining our weight here, and then we know that as soon as I take that step, I'm going to move. Now, when I shift my weight, then the opposite happens. If I don't step, and I reverse the stance, it becomes that. Now, if I commit, then I have to bring the weight over. And then it becomes the other side. But I didn't commit to here, and then I start to move. The commitment is putting weight on it. So that's how we can kind of, we call it differentiating between the solid and the empty. So that's really which one is weighted, which was unweighted. Which one is weighted, which one is unweighted. So that's going to a wider stance. But when we're close, then it goes like this. See, so that's how you don't have to take giant steps. You just need to be able to control where this is, where this is, where this is, where this is. So you have these interim phases of positions that allow you to adjust your weight. That's really something that happens throughout the Tai Chi training, and it's also something that really is really focused on in our Tai Chi footwork, as well as how we have to integrate the body. So now, that's that. And then we have the side-to-side thing. So we go like this to just get the twisting of the waist. So we can go like this, or we just come to center. 1. So you counterbalance your movement. That's how we step to the side to here. That's how we step to the side as a counterweight. So if you were to step here and bring it to here, then we step here, then bring it to here. That would be how the body is moving in order to get to where we have to go. So that's really getting your arms this way and so forth. All right, so let's take a couple of deep breaths. Up, stretch the neck a little bit. Okay. Now let's do silk reeling. So this is this from the hold the ball position. I'm going to do a mirror image so you can see better. So we're here. 1, 2. So some of you have been following for a while. are pretty good doing this now. So when we're here, it's this. When we're here, it's this. So between this position and this position, I just broke that down. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the legs and the hands moving independently. Now if I go 1, 2 in the back, 3, 4, the hands are doing 4 movements. So you combine it, there's 1 here, there's 2. We break it down into the components. You have 1, 2, the leg is 3, and 4. Okay? So that's what we're doing. But now we're going to turn. And we get to here. And that's silk release. So it's just a continuity exercise. And then we're going to go to the other side in a second. And we're going to work it like this. So I pivot. See how I pivoted? I went like this. First I had to shift my weight. And then so that's similar to the footwork we just did. So nothing I'm doing is unsupported by something that we've actually gone through or part of our training, because we're constantly sort of supporting our own movement through different mechanisms, especially footwork. So as I'm here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm back here, and then I go like this. That's that position. That's that position. So that's done simultaneously, 1, 2. So you can see that because it's not cycling through, it's kind of rigid. It's not really, it's only 1 and 2. Whereas if I go like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, it seems like it's cycling through the movement. And that's really how our body should move. It's cycling through different spaces, which is part of the spatial awareness, and you're manipulating your skeleton. Your manipulation of skeletal structure is getting the hands in a position, getting your hands in a position, and then expanding it. So that's really something that we're doing to get our limbs working correctly. Okay, so that's silk reeling. Now let's open it up. That's cross hands and open. Cross hands and open. So that's opening and closing. So we do it on the other side. Cross the hands and open. Cross the hands and open. So it's just an expansion. Let it out. Expand and contract. Expand and contract. Expand and contract. So that's just opening up your chest and relaxing your back, expanding and relaxing. Why do we need to do that? Because if you have some rigidity in here, it's because it's all like this. So the only way to get that to expand is to expand. Let the musculature open. So your ribs, your chest opens, and your back actually tightens a little bit because it has, but then let it round out. Open. 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 Okay, so that will help you get that action moving. Just like when we do this, it's to get the shoulders moving. Okay, and this to get our knees and elbows working. So we did a lot of leg work. We still have to get that upper body to free up. And we need to move our limbs. So we have, these are patterns. Just make a circle. And just making a circle is not as easy as it sounds. But when you slow it down, what you're doing is this. Okay, now I'm going to reverse that, go the opposite direction. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more. 1, and 2. Okay, now, palms down. Let's do a big circle. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Stretch. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. So these are pretty big movements because it's going way up here, but that really stretches this out, frees up this area in the back. So you have to loosen the neck. So all of this area, when we make our circles, is really upper body, the shoulder girdle, the chest, all of that, shoulder blades, they're all part of that action. We don't pay attention to it if we don't move, and we don't pay attention to it typically because we don't take it to those, probably if you never did this, kind of extreme in emotion because typically our limbs are pretty tight, pretty stiff. It only goes up here before the muscle starts to tighten and restricts the motion. So you have to relax. Relaxing is a feeling. So not only is it a mental relaxation, it's a relaxation of what it feels like to delete the tension in your joints and limbs. Those are, tension is easier to do than letting go, because I find more people are stiffer than they are typically loose. So only infants are really relaxed because they haven't learned to move yet. Once you get up on your feet and you start to move, you're going to create habits. You're going to create habits because we start to move the wrong way because we haven't learned to move. We're just moving based on what we think we should be doing. So some people are better than others in capturing what movement is like, and those are people that become somewhat better as athletes. Then there's people that actually see it and they don't really pick up on it, so the body doesn't evolve and you don't develop the same skillful movement. So movement is actually a skill. If you follow it properly and watch closely enough and follow the dialogue, then you start to interpret the movements in a different way. So that's why learning Tai Chi is very challenging for a lot of people in the beginning because you haven't moved for a long time, you haven't moved in this way, particularly in this way, and then you end up having a little trouble because those connections or the motor side of working those movements haven't been nurtured. They haven't been discovered as far as how to do that. But once you get the knack of it, it just happens. It just comes into play. So let's go into a few of the other things that we've been doing, and it's really cloud hands is one of the movements. So when we shift our weight, let's go from side to side. So those movements is this, just like we just did. Except for we're doing one of them at a time. And we're building this 1, 2, 1, 2. But I'm not turning, so it's a little bit, it looks a little bit rigid if I don't turn, because now I don't include a dimension of movement. Now, if I go like this and I shift, then I'm here. Shift, and I'm here. Shift, and I'm here. So this is essentially cloud hand movements with a leg shift that I think is important to begin to do. So you get familiar with moving your body across and tracking that movement. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we're not going like 3 that way or 3 that way until we can actually control this better, and then we can actually start to do that. Now if I go in like this, it was really part of the cloud hands, we just change directions. Right? If I go like this to this corner, that's part of the footwork, or I get to here and then I pivot out and I just change directions if I take the step. So there's nothing that I'm teaching you that isn't part of what we do normally. So in the form, in our transitions, in our shifting of weight, in our patterns, it's all consistent with what we're learning, because as creatures of habit, we have to see things a certain way over and over again. While you're confused in many ways that, what am I learning? I don't really understand what's going on. It's because you're not familiar with it, and because it seems like so many pieces of the puzzle that we just can't connect the dots. So while we're doing all the different exercises, eventually your body will start to connect and respond and know that this is that, this is that, this is that, but they all become one giant picture, and that is really that jigsaw puzzle of learning these movements. Okay, so when we're here, we have the cloud hands. Now we're going to do, some sun aligning position. To here, let's go to the square position, and we're going to do the preparation. So find vertical, press down, so the hands are right along the side of your leg. If I turn, you see, here, lift, 1, 2. If I release my fingers, it looks like this. If I turn my palms by turning them in, because the elbows, that's neutral position. Okay, so there's the neutral position, and we open. So this is called preparation. This is how we start off the Tai Chi form. Then now we're going to go into a lower hoop position. So I want you to stand in these positions to develop the circle. The hoop, that's low. Let's hold it for 5 seconds. Let's hold it to shoulder height a few seconds. So just get familiar with these hoop positions. So that's horizontal elbow and the hoop position. Now let's go to triangles. Triangular position. There's your triangle. Your feet are square. Your hands are in a triangle position, meaning these two forms are angled in. This is not a, that's more square. This is more triangle. Triangular position, rounding. Okay, this is more square, more vertical. And this is vertical, palm in toward the seam of your pants. So you have 5 positions. You have 1, 2, 3, take it down here, 4, and 5. So those are your 5 standing positions that you use to develop some muscle memory. And then from that position, after we've done those, right, we go into strum the lute, which is the triangle, which is an extension of this, and we're going to do this. Strum the lute. Strum the lute is a vertical elbow. So what do we mean by vertical elbow? It's that. On the other side, we have one here. So here's my left one. Here's my right one. So in this position, I want this hand to be here. Okay, so you have both hands up. In this position, I want this one here. So you have a right and a left side position. Then we go to palm horizontal position, palm up, palm in, palms together. Okay, then we drop this hand. Now we have this position. I bring this to center and move it like this. So this is here where it's supposed to be. This is here in front of the nose. There's your right side. Thumbs up, palms together. Okay, so we have a left and a right. and a flip, and a flip, and a flip. Okay, so that's the two vertical and horizontal positions. And then once we're here in the horizontal position, we can go like this and then turn to draw the bow. 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 Okay, good. So we'll do a few of those, and then we have this position where we do fan through the back. It's just big circles going to the side, going up and going to the side, going up and going to the side. Okay, next, we're going to raise the hand. Way up tall, way up high. Get a good stretch. Just trying to expand and increase the range of motion. Relax the shoulders, relax the joint, let it go. Let it go way up high, way up high. Let opposite sides connect. Okay, here, see? Deep breathing, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. So, Lucian, what are we doing for time? 1:21. Okay, so no questions, right, at this point? Okay, so as we know, the Tai Chi form that we all see, whether it's in the parks or in, when it's done here, it's a sequence. And a sequence is made up of different postures. We've gone through this, previously in some of the classes where we identify the postures. So I'm going to go through these postures again so that we can kind of understand what they are. So this one's opening. This is preparation. Okay? So that's done. That's one unit. That's called preparation. It's opening the form. In preparation, because all these postures are linked together, your next movement is actually on the left side. So it starts in this position, and then here, and then here. Okay, so you have vertical and horizontal. So if I'm in this position, after I finish this, I have to get my foot in the right position, so we start off on the left. Then we get the vertical, and then we have horizontal. So that's your left side position, left side beginning style. If I drop my hand and switch hands, depending on, that's the move we learned in the drill, I could do this now or later. So let's hold this and I step up. Now I'm going to get my right foot forward. But I want to get to the other side because this hand and this foot have to go together. And then I go forward. So those are the vertical and the horizontal, the vertical and the horizontal on each side. All right. So you have one on each side, but you have also a leg on one on each side. So that's two postures. That's beginning style, left and right side, as the vertical and horizontal, vertical and horizontal. So that should be pretty clear. Then we go to the next complete posture called grasp the sparrow's tail, which is made up of 4 movements. And you have 1, 2, 3 is a line drawn toward the hip. Inside hand up is push, and you hook your wrist. So that series of movements is called grasp the sparrow's tail. It's on the right side and on the left, so that actually gives you an idea that this is a posture in the front side of the form, and the back side of the form will have the left side. But we just have to focus on these 4 movements. So what are these 4 movements? You have the vertical, the horizontal, the divert, and the push. So we have this, 1. We have this, 2. But this has to be in this position. And then we have the next one, which is a slant. So it goes from here to here. So you have this line that slants down. So we, as if we're pulling down. Okay, just think of a line being drawn down toward the hip. Drawn down. Now let's turn the inside hand up and let's push out with the front palm. So the front palm is this. This hand just rests on the crook of the wrist. It doesn't do anything other than connect, and don't have to put a lot of strength or effort into the movement. Just go through the channeling of the movement. Channeling is taking it in a direction, just like it is in a groove. Just take it down that groove and then bring it up and come out of that as a track. It's just going through this track. So that's grass to Sparrows. It has 4 movements. It's vertical, it's horizontal, it's slanting down, it's pushing forward. Those 4 movements are combined together to create what we call the right side grass to Sparrow's tail. Now, let's go to this corner. Just like if we're standing like this and I pivot, let's go to this corner. Okay. So my goal is to get back in the center. So when I'm in this position, just let's do it from here. Okay, we just finished grass to Sparrow's tail, right? So let's go to the side like this and then pivot and get to this position and bring this hand here. This is the single whip position. So not connecting it to the form, but taking it from this corner, and I move it like this. So what I did was my leg, I went 1, 2. Now I'm in this stance, shaped like this, and my hands were here, or still here. Now I bring this hand across and turn it out. Now look at this position. That's your single whip position. Okay? Single whip. It's actually the names of the form is on our website. On the top banner, there's a black bar. There's a PDF there. If you can click on that, or it's downloadable. You can capture those names, and you can look at those names, and you'll see single whip. It's probably the 3rd item in the form where you go like this on that list, and then you're in single whip. Then this is hold the ball. Okay? So the palm side goes in, and don't worry about too much of the detail. Just remember that these are positions, and that's hold the ball, and this is diagonal flying. Part of what the silk reeling does is this. Remember? We don't do this, that's silk reeling, but this is a piece extracted from hold the ball to diagonal flying. Okay, so that's another posture. So we went through, the first 2 positions. Then we had the grass the sparrow's tail. It happens in a specific space, but this is grass the sparrow's tail. And then this is single whip. Okay, and then a transition. This is hold the ball. Okay, reset. Forget all that. Just start again. Where do we start from? We're going to move to this position, hold the ball. This is diagonal flying. If we would do it again, there's your 2nd diagonal flying. We do it again, it's your 3rd diagonal flying. But you notice the legs are alternating and they're going forward and back. So here again, shifting of weight forward and back really has to do with the knees. The knees alternate. They go forward and back. They weight shift forward, they weight shift back. So forward and back, right and left is really all tied to how we shift our weight. So once we get to diagonal flying, forget that again. Forgetting it means don't connect anything. We're just separating everything out. We step up into the right side, press forward, step up, raise the hand. Bend from the waist, stork flaps wings, and relax. So what do we have? We have a step up, a raise the hand, and stork flaps wings. So stork flaps wings, we carry tiger to the mountain. You have that. That's a position for stork flaps wings. This position is neutral. We press forward. There's your horizontal. Here's your waist level. Here's your shoulder width stance. Here's the lift. Here's the bend. Here's the turn. And here's stork flaps wings. So you see, when we build these postures, how simple it starts to be, because we have to recall all the different postures that we have, and then we look at some of the transitions, and we have the leg work. So all of those, they're building blocks to learning the form. We just went through the first section of the form, but I want you to identify this. What's that called? Preparation. I want you to identify the right side with the right leg or the left side with the left leg. Those are relationship. So that's the vertical and the toe up. Here's the horizontal. So those are really important because they're kind of setups for each posture depending on which one it is. It's not the setup for every posture, but it's a good amount of them that actually work off of that posture. Then you have hold the ball. Hold the ball is another setup for a number of postures, specifically pot the horse's mane and diagonal flying. Okay, so that's something that you can get from. Hold the ball, set up for diagonal flying, and pot the horse's mane. It's kind of, keep that in mind. You probably won't remember it completely every class. You're going to just hear it and then say, what did he say? What did he say? I don't remember that. So I try to recall as many times as you want. It's not always easy to pick up on everything I'm saying, but so that's a setup. And then in your neutral position, if you don't, you go to this position. If you don't do grasp the sparrow's tail, or you don't do beginning style, you go forward and you step up and you're here. Once your hand is here, when this goes up and this goes down, that's raising the hand. And then when you bend over, then you pick up this hand and bring it to here. That becomes stork flax wings. So hopefully with that content you can practice a bit. That's the first section of the form. I'd like to move on if I could, but I know there's a lot of newer people that really needs to practice these first. All right, on that note, I'll see you Thursday. Have a good week. Review these exercises. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share it with your friends, or share it with anybody that you know that might have Parkinson's, or people that have been newly diagnosed, and that's it.